So I wanted to invite John to this Teams meeting here to go over the Freddy unit and go over some of the advantages and selling techniques that we can have as we approach this promo that we're launching in Q1. With the success that we have with the next gen oil skimmers, I thought that this might be a good one to roll into for Q1, and just kind of tie that whole thing in. So without further ado, John, if you kind of want to take it away and go over your unit, that'd be great.
Sure. Now I can share my screen at this point, or
Sure.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So we'll take it off camera.
So John, if you've used Teams in the past, it's that little box with the arrow up top.
Yeah, in the last year, I've used pretty much all of them at one point or another.
Gotcha.
Let's see. All right, can everybody see that?
Perfect. Yep,
That
perfect.
slide. All right. First of all, thanks everybody for taking the time today. I know most people at this point in our industry are worn out by presentations online, so I appreciate your time. I'm going to give you actually a quick overview of the Freddy product line. There is a focus on the EcoVac, which is going to be the primary one that you guys are selling, but I did want to just kind of give you an overview because there's some other products that, as you're talking to people about the EcoVac, there's other opportunities for some really good products that go hand in hand with it. So just kind of as a overview, Freddy products, we're focusing on their key primary products, obviously features and benefits for those products, gain a better understanding of application as well, how they can be applied, areas to target as far as markets go, and as we all know as salespeople, the right questions to ask as you're in front of a customer. This is Freddy's. Usually I go through Freddy's website. I'm not going to do that this morning, but this is Freddy's web address. If you want to take a few minutes to check that out, it's a great website that gives a good overview of all their different products. This is the machine that we're going to be primarily focusing on from as far as for your special for this quarter. This is the Freddy EcoVac that's shown in the picture here, but overall target markets, small shops up to 30 machine tools. Now that doesn't mean that larger shops aren't going to be able to focus on these particular machines. It's just if you're going to target, one particular one, 30 machine tools in that area is a good area to go towards. Smaller shops, if they have 5 machine tools, the EcoVac is probably going to be out of their price range. But it, as you know, it varies from one to another. That's not a hard and fast rule. That's just a rule of thumb. As I said, large users too. So the unique part of this particular product, no other sump cleaner on the market does this, and that's the ability to vacuum and discharge it simultaneously. This gives you a lot of great flexibility with this particular product. It allows you to clean out a sump of much larger size than the 50-gallon capacity of the tank. A lot of times people get in their mindset, okay, I have big machine tools that are, 150-gallon sumps. I need a 150-gallon sump cleaner. And that's not necessarily the case. A lot of times they can do a great job of cleaning out their sumps with a smaller footprint machine like this Freddy EcoVac that's going to allow them to have the ability to move it around the shop. It's much easier to manage. As you know, once you start getting into these larger sump cleaners, if you've ever seen them, they are a bear to move around a shop. They're big, they're bulky, and once you get into hundreds of gallons of fluid in a tank, they are very difficult to manage. So this gives you the kind of the best of both worlds. It allows you to vacuum out the sump. You can be discharging right back into the same sump, and the discharge is actually a high enough pressure that it allows you to loosen up those sediments that are sitting at the bottom of the tank. So you can take, let's say, 100-gallon sump. You can be vacuuming it out, discharging back in, loosening up those sediments that are sitting at the bottom of a tank, and just continuously processing that tank out until it's clean. As I mentioned previously, it's a 50-gallon capacity. So that gives you, it's a nice in-between size. It's not too big. It's not too small. So you can really fit a lot of applications with this particular sump cleaner. It's by far Freddy's most popular product. And for the reasons I just discussed, that's why.
So John, quick question. This is Pat.
Yeah.
So most people then will suck out the bad coolant and automatically refill. They won't store it in a 55-gallon drum and then put it in later. They'll do it as a continuous method.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And by the way, I forgot to mention at the beginning, this is casual. Don't wait till the end. If you want to jump in like that to ask a question, please do. It's something interactive. I don't want to just be blabbing away. So if you have a question at any point, feel free to jump in.
So John, this is
Yes.
this is Ron's question. So this allows the end user to continue to push through production then while they're cleaning out the sump. Am I correct to say that? There's no need to shut down the machine?
Yeah, they could do that. Yeah, that's fine. They if they need to keep the machine running, absolutely, they can just be discharging right back in into the machine sump. If it's a small sump, that would be kind of difficult. If somebody has a 25-gallon sump, there's not a lot of volume there to be vacuuming in and discharging back. But yeah, if they have a 50-gallon sump or a larger sump, yeah, absolutely, they can production.
Okay, because the reason I ask, I see that as a benefit for some companies, as you say, with larger machines with larger sumps, that they can continue to produce products while they're cleaning the coolant.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely another benefit of the machine for sure. Great question. Also, we do offer a free 2-week trial. It's not something, don't lead with that. Don't do that right off the bat, but it's something where if somebody has an interest but they're hesitating, is kind of when I mention this to them. We will do something where the customer only pays to have it shipped to them, and we're shipping them a brand new machine. We're taking a brand new machine and sending it to them, and the reason for that is we don't get them back. When customers get these things in their hands, there's been, and we've been doing this for years and years and years, there's been one or two, just a handful of returns when a customer gets these things in their hands. So that's a great selling feature if somebody's kind of on the fence, if they're interested but they're not 100% sure. So
John, what's the price point on this particular unit?
List price is $84.95. That's the end user selling price for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, John, I have a quick question. Then I think Ezra, you had a question. The pressure of when you're doing the vacuum and then discharging the liquid back in.
Yeah.
Is there a difference in pressure there? Like, does it vacuum at one pressure and then discharge at another? I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a good question as well. There is a slight difference between the two. So if you were going to continuously vacuum and discharge, the discharge pump, if you look on that image on the screen there, that blue motor at the bottom of the screen is your discharge pump. And it's a little bit smaller than your vacuum is, but it's not something that is even really noticeable. But if you were continuously vacuuming and discharging, eventually the discharge pump wouldn't keep up with the vacuum pump.
Okay.
But it's not something that like you would even notice when you're using it. It's not that much of a difference. Good question, though.
Ezra, did you have a question?
I did. My question was very similar to that. I was going to ask if the discharge pressure was variable for cleaning purposes, essentially, when you're trying to loosen stuff. I didn't know if you had a ball valve on there to, where you could neck it up and spray the coolant more, or.
Yeah, it's not variable in that sense, but it does have basically, you can see it kind of on the side there. It's like a
Gas nozzle,
gas
kind of.
pump, basically. Yeah, exactly. So if you want
Is that a ball valve, or is it like a lever?
I believe it's a lever. But it's basically just like a gas pump you would use to fill up your car. So if you need to vary the pressure of it, you can just do it as your.
Okay, if you let off from that handle, does the pump have like a bypass that goes back to tank, or does it pressurize the line and potentially pop the line?
I'm
like
not
your
sure.
competitor's machine, their machine, if you turn that pump on and you don't have that valve open, it'll pop the line potentially.
No, that's not an issue at all with it.
Okay. And then another question I had, along with the 2-week free trial potential, would it be possible to get a demo unit?
Yeah, that's a possibility. That's something that we could discuss.
Okay. Fair enough.
That is a possibility. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
John, another quick question here. So it looks like the at the top of the tank, that's where your machine fines would go in, things like that.
Yes.
Right. And then, but how about filters that are, since it's cleaning the coolant, how often do those have to be changed? Is it after, sucking up, 1,000 gallons, or what's the rule of thumb on the filters and stuff like that?
Boy, a bunch of great questions. Yeah, it's and that one it's going to vary. It's going to vary a lot on what the customer is, what filter they're using, number one, and what the actual solids that they're actually vacuuming through it. Some, if you got a lot of actual chips, hard chips, some materials can be a little more abrasive. You're going to wear out the filter more. There's 2 different types of filters that we supply for the Freddy EcoVac. One is a reusable, and the other type are disposable. And they come in different micron sizes. So the reusable one is just what you think it is. It's designed to, be reused, and that's something that we've had customers, use those for years. The same one, but it's going to vary depending on how much use it gets, obviously. Whereas with the disposables, like let's say a 10 micron disposable, depending on how much usage it's going to get, you might, it's going to vary how many machine tools you have. But if, let's say you have 25 machine tools, you can, you could probably do most of those machine tools with one 10 micron filter.
I kind of equate this to the coffee filters, right? You either replace those every time you make a pot, or you have that the one you just clean out. So is that the more popular? Right. When you look at how many of these things you sell, is the reusable one the more popular way to go?
Well, the reusable, we supply a 200 micron reusable and a 10 micron disposable when we sell it with each one. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a lot of people that are going to obviously, if you can use one that's reusable, that's the preference, because there's not as much of a cost involved. But also, they also don't go down to the micron size of the disposables. Like if you want to get down to 10 micron, the only one available in that size is a disposable. You can't, we don't have one available in that configuration. So it kind of depends on how fine you want to get down to when it comes to filtering out the coolant.
Yeah, it may depend on what the customer's machining and the fines that they're producing, actually.
Yep.
So is this, I may have missed this, is this a 1 or 2 filter system?
It is, as if you buy an EcoVac off, standard EcoVac, it's 1. We do supply, and this is a very new option. I don't even think we have it in stock right now. It's that new. But we do supply a secondary filter unit that you can put on top of this basically, and it literally just connects right up to the top so that you can put 2 stages of filtration on the EcoVac. So if you want to get down to, let's say if you want to go down to that 10 micron size, if you're doing a lot, that 10 microns a pretty tight filter. So, if you want to get down to that size, you may need to filter twice in order to not plug that 10 micron filter if you're continuously, doing a lot of solid filtration. So that allows you can have the 200 micron, let's say, reusable as your first stage, and then the 10 micron or 20 micron as the secondary stage. And that way you can do it all in one sweep. So yeah, that's actually a relatively recent addition that you can get that secondary filter unit.
John, this is Barry Ertel. I had a question for you.
Go ahead.
I just did a sump clean out in a large shop for a change out.
Yeah.
And this would have been ideal because we had a 350 gallon sump and we kept filling drums. Could that bypass, instead of going back into the sump, easily go into a tote or something?
Absolutely. A lot of people will do that. If they're looking to actually replace the coolant and not reuse it, you can just take one. You literally can hold one in each hand. You can be vacuuming with one and discharging with the other. So if you want to have it, or you could just put it in, into the tote and have something hold that open. But yeah, you can absolutely do that. A lot of people will do it that way.
John, Greg Garbic here. Would that be like an even distribution though? Would it be like the same amount going in as going out, or is there a lag in there?
There's a little bit of a slight difference between the discharge pump. It's just a little bit slower. So you may need to, from time to time stop vacuuming, but it's a very minor difference. Very minor.
All right, thanks.
Yep. Great questions, guys.
While we're right on that question, do you know what the GPM of the discharge is?
35 on the vacuum. The discharge, I don't know exactly what it is.
Just less than 35?
Yeah, it's just a little bit less than 35. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anything else, guys? Before
John, I got one quick question. This is Pete.
Yeah.
So if you're sucking and you're discharging and you're going into the same sump,
Yes.
does the Freddy unit have to be at capacity, at that 50-gallon capacity, in order to discharge, or can you have a smaller amount in the unit itself? Because I'm thinking about Haas's with like smaller
That's a great
capacities
question.
with like 30 gallons. Can you filter that also? Or?
Absolutely. No, it does not need to be completely full. There does need to be a little bit of fluid in the tank, but not very much at all.
Okay.
Yeah. Because that discharge is taking it from the bottom of the tank, so it can be it can only have 5 gallons in there or whatever, and it can discharge. So yeah, boy, great questions, guys. Anything else? Okay. So basically, just to clarify, this is a solids removal vacuum. It's not, you're not removing tramp oil with this machine. There is a small attachment that you can actually add to the Freddy if a customer has tramp oil issues, and that is also a relatively new product for Freddy. So that is an attachment that is an option that you can get that basically works like a skim. Basically, it's skimming the tramp oil off the top.
So John, right now, as it sits, if you didn't have that attachment and you're sucking off some tramp oil, it's getting filtered to some degree and then going right back in the machine. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It is going to help. Solids and tramp oil kind of interact with each other. If you have a lot of fines in your coolant, those fines are, the oil is going to bind with those fines, and it's going to cause more issues with tramp oil. So removing solids is also something that's going to help with as the bacterial issues you can get with tramp oil. So they go hand in hand, but yeah, it's not designed to do that. This next product that I was going to talk about, Like I said, this is the primary one that you guys are presenting, but if you're in there talking about issues with coolant, Freddy has some other products that can also work well. So I just wanted to mention those at the same time. And on that note, regarding
I've got one more question for you before you hop
right
off
ahead.
in there.
Absolutely.
So when you fill that filter, how much does it weigh? And when you know, because I know some of the other vendors out there that build these machines, you need an overhead crane to pull the filter mechanism out. The basket has a filter lining, and they're extremely heavy, like more than 2 guys can pick up.
Yeah, it's not nearly that heavy.
You know approximately how big it is. You know, obviously it's going to be variable how much you fill it, what you fill it with.
Obviously, exactly what the solids you have in it. Obviously, I don't know the dimensions off the top of my head. I could get that information if you need it, but you can take it out with one hand.
Okay, so it's just
not something that
maybe a foot diameter, 2 feet tall, kind of.
Exactly, it's not something that you're going to struggle. But like you said, obviously it depends on how much solids you have in it. But yeah, people aren't taking these baskets out with cranes. It's not that large. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep.
I think Jim Jennison had a question.
Yeah, John, on that note, so if you're sucking out a machine, say it's got 300-gallon sump and there's a lot of fines, is there a mechanism that tells you when that chip basket is full?
Basically, you would notice a pressure drop off. Yeah. Is how you would identify that. Good question.
And also, do you have like a PDF file of that unit with that has more technical information that we can share with our customers?
Sure, I do have several. I'll send over as much information as I can to you guys, and also give you a link to the page that kind of features that particular product. That can give you more detail as well.
Is there a YouTube channel with it showing it live?
Freddy Products. If you do a search on YouTube for Freddy Products,
we'll find it there.
Yeah, and if you do, or even the Freddy EcoVac itself, if you do a search for the Freddy EcoVac, Simon, who is the runs Freddy, gives a great overview of it. So yeah, that's there's that. They have a lot of videos actually.
Great.
Freddy's website's very, very good, and their YouTube channel is very good as well. Yeah.
We have some more questions, John, from looks like David Cross and Brian Stevens.
Yeah, go ahead, guys.
All right, this is David. So my question was, are they electric powered, pneumatic, or do you have both options?
They are, boy, you guys are covering all the good questions. They are electric. Freddy does not do pneumatic. 110 volt is the standard voltage, but Freddy will do whatever voltage the customer needs. So if you need 230 volt single phase or 3-phase, you can get any option as far as voltage.
That was the same question I had.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And John, does it come with in that vein? Does it come with like a long cord that's part of it to plug in? Is it a retractable cord, or does the customer have to have like a long extension cord?
It does have a good length cord on it. It's not retractable, but it is a good length. Yeah.
John, this is Jerry Peck. I have a question on after they use it and they clean out the sump of a machine. Is there a clean out procedure for this unit? Let's say they have it setting off to the side, maybe for a few days, they don't use it. Is there anything that you use to clean the system out itself?
Yeah, you don't really generally need to do that. It's just, it's a good idea to discharge as much as you can from the tank when you're done using it. But yeah, generally speaking, there is a, let me go back for a second here to that previous slide. You can see there is at the bottom of it, the ability to open that up, but it's really not necessary to do that very often.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something where just discharge, as much as you can out of it. and
So you don't need to flush it with anything. I just didn't know if like bacteria would form in there, and you don't want to be cross-contaminating or whatever.
Right. I mean, if you were going to leave it for a really long time, it would probably be a good idea to clean it out because of bacteria. But generally, if you're leaving it for days or a week or whatever, that's not an issue for it.
Okay.
Unless you were gonna, if you had two types of coolants, if you had oil and water-based coolant, you really don't. Generally, we don't recommend using the same Freddy for both of those. But if you had to, then you'd have to do a real thorough clean out in between the two. But that's really the only time. Really good questions, guys.
Thank you.
And John, another one here. Is there any issue with synthetic coolant in this unit?
As far as separation of synthetic coolant?
Yeah, or just effects on it. I mean, is that impacted at all?
Not in the least. No, it's not. Yeah, it's funny because that question comes up. We're involved in all types of coolant recycling. We do large systems for centrifuges and things like that. And people ask that question a lot with regard to centrifuge separating out coolant. And all of your modern day coolants, there's not an issue with separation in that regard. Good question though. Anything else, guys, before I move on to some of the other secondary products that you guys could?
Yeah, John. One last question. Greg Garvick here. On the chip basket, is that the thing on the upper left top, like right after the hose?
Yep, that is correct.
How easy is that to pull out and change? Because I'm thinking like when we do the clean outs, we've been doing quite a bit of them.
Mm-hmm.
How quick is it to change that or dump it out? Is it bolts or is it a couple of thumb screws or how's that?
It's just literally clips. You basically clip it off.
Okay.
I mean, we're when we're bringing these to the IMTS show or whatever, you can pop it off in a couple seconds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Guys that do cleanouts love these things, by the way. If they were the decision maker in every one of these things, I couldn't keep them on the shelf. So. Is that it, guys? Before I talk about some of the other products that you could look at. Really good questions. Thanks. In regard to tramp oil, this is the Freddy TOS tramp oil separator, designed to combat problems associated with tramp oil levels in machine tool coolant. Basically, this is a portable coalescer system. As you guys, I'm sure know, tramp oil can cause a variety of problems, both in the finish of the product and the operators themselves. The nice thing about this machine is it's very easily to maneuver. It can be used throughout the factory. It runs continuously, so it's not something that interferes with production. The nice thing about this particular machine is a lot of times if you have an oil skimmer like the small ones that are mounted on sumps, they can do an okay job. But if a customer really has machines that have issues with tramp oil, they can have problems keeping up. And very often in shops, there's a particular handful of machine tools that customers will have issues with. Whether it's machines that are older machines or whatever it might be. If you ask that question, usually not every one of their machine tools has tramp oil problems. It's let's say a half dozen or whatever. So you can set this up on a rotation and go from one to another, set it up for a day or for a shift, depending on how much tramp oil the machine has. Rotate it to another machine, set it up, let it run, and just put it on a rotation on the machines that the customer has, real tramp oil problems with, so that they can focus on that. You can also, very often with the issues that customers have with bacteria growth, with, they start getting that rotten egg smell in their sumps, a lot of times they'll find that if they have a particular machine tool that's sitting for a period of time, that's when they're going to have those problems, because when the sumps are allowed to sit, that oil covers the top of the sump, and that's when you start getting severe bacterial growth. So with that in mind, they can target those machines. They know, let's say, for instance, that a particular machine is going to be sitting, they don't have production for that machine for a week. They can strategically plan for when that machine is down, put this on it, let it run while the machine is sitting, make sure that tramp oil is being removed so that they're not having a problem. Similar in this as far as markets, small to medium-sized shops, obviously with tramp oil issues. As I mentioned, older machines tend to be more of an issue for tramp oil than somebody that has a lot of newer machine tools.
John, what's the Pat again? What's the price point on that unit?
That is, let's see, I think it's around 65, I believe, is the price for that. 6,500.
Do you have a PDF on that unit?
Yes. Yeah, I can send you guys that as well. And it kind of goes hand in hand. Like I said, if you're talking to somebody about coolant, solids and tramp oil are usually their two primary pain points, as they say. So there's also a larger, actually, this gives you an image of that secondary filter unit that the question came up earlier. You can see that on top of this machine. This is the Freddy CHU coolant health unit. It was developed in conjunction with Rolls-Royce manufacturing team. Basically, they're Freddy's largest customer. Freddy's based out of the UK. And in conjunction with them saying, listen, this is what we need. These are the products, the issues that we're dealing with and we'd like to see resolved. This machine was developed based out of that relationship. Allows you, the differences that you can see with this is you can actually set it up to be a filter unit where you can actually have the vacuum and the discharge where it can run continuously. The discharge, it actually will, once the tank gets to a certain level, it discharges, it actually controls the flow back and forth. So you could set this up on a machine and actually have it run as a filter unit. So that's what makes this different from the EcoVac. It does have that secondary filter unit, which you can buy for the EcoVac, but that is one of the primary differences. You could set this up, actually mount it to the machine tool where it could be continuously filtering out that sump, kind of as a side stream or a kidney loop function. As I mentioned, it automatically fills and empties, so you don't have to stop production. It just runs continuously. And with the two-stage filtration, it enables different levels of filtration with one pass. So you could have, as I mentioned earlier, maybe a 200 micron stage one, and then a 10 or 20 micron secondary stage.
And John, what's the price point of this unit?
The price point of this one is so new that that hasn't been 100% defined yet. It's product that's just come out, but I can give you a ballpark on it right now. It's probably around that 13,000, somewhere in that range. But it's I'd have to get that for you because it's such a new product that we haven't defined pricing on it. That's how new it is.
Okay.
So, but
yeah.
we can definitely we can work that out with you guys. So. It does include that oil separator that I mentioned to you. That's actually part of this machine. So it has that skimmer unit, which I can show you right here. This is it's basically just allowing you to just set it up where it could skim that tramp oil off the top of the sump. You can have it has either a floating skimmer or it has a magnetic skimmer that you can mount to the side of the sump. at the level of the coolant. This is that secondary filter unit that I mentioned earlier. That comes standard on this machine, allows you to do those 2 stages of filtration. Some of the questions, you know, you guys are familiar with it, with this stuff, so it's probably pretty basic. But you know, asking the obvious question: are you having problems with your coolant? And as you guys probably know, most shops, this is like a thorn in their side. They're dealing with problems most of the time, unless they're being really on top of a good maintenance schedule, and they already have systems in place to deal with it. They more than likely have problems with their coolant. So that's usually a good lead-in question. Obviously, another one which refers to your ROI. What are you spending on new coolant? And also keep in mind, they're not just spending money on the front end for new coolant. They're spending money on disposal, because you can't just take that spent coolant and put it down the drain. So not only are they paying on the front end, they're paying on the back end. So, you know, always remember to ask those questions, because the overall cost of not maintaining coolant is, it can be a big number. And also, what are you doing now to maintain your coolant? So those are just the primary questions. That's actually the end of the presentation, guys. I really do thank you for your patience, and great questions, great interaction, by the way. Any other questions while we finish up?
Yeah, John, where do
John,
these, I assume you ship one Freddy unit on a pallet. Is that how that is? And where does it ship from?
They are in stock at our facility in Walpole, Massachusetts.
Oh, Walpole, Mass. Okay.
Walpole, Mass. Good.
Hey, John, this is Mike. I have one last question too.
Yep.
From a contact standpoint, should all of our guys, if they have questions, or if our customers have questions, reach out to you, or do you have a list of contacts that they should reach out to first?
No, they can actually reach out to me, I think is the best way. If there's any other, you know, we have guys inside that could you know, help with a lot of other things. But yeah, it can go through me, and if there's anything else, I can direct them to the right person. But yeah, I would say I would be the best person to contact.
Hey,
Okay,
John.
so I'll share your contact information with them then after this.
Yep.
Okay.
John, this is Ron. One question I have is, how about if it requires replacement parts? Is that all in stock as well out of Walpole?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we stock. We're the sole provider of Freddy products for North America. So yeah, we have all, you know, when I say all, doesn't mean we never have something that, you know, we always have every part. But yes, 90% of the time we're going to have the part in stock. If not, we can get it quickly from Freddy out of the UK.
Other than filters, what would you say probably needs to be replaced the most?
There's not a huge amount of maintenance, but I would say there's probably, that would be a good question for Mike Cifello, our parts manager. He would have probably the best feel. But yeah, besides filters, there's really not a lot of maintenance. I would say probably seals would be the primary thing that customers would deal with. You know, and if they've had them for years and years, they might have an issue with a pump or a motor. But these things are built like tanks. They really are. They're built really, really well. Freddy prides themselves in, you know, in making a great product. They're probably, you guys know, because you deal with a lot of different vendors. If I could pick one vendor to duplicate, to make all my vendors be like, it would be Freddy. They are an incredible company to deal with. Just super responsive, if you need something, they will jump through every hoop that there is to get what you need. If you need, by the way, anything custom, like let's say, for instance, a customer wants a particular, some cleaner in a particular volume, capacity, just let us know what it is, what voltage, what volume, what, you know, it is a, you know, they will do whatever you need. So.
John, do y'all sell these direct, or does everything go through
distribution or a partner?
Generally speaking, we have reps around the country. But they'll deal with distribution as well. So it can be a combination of both, or it can be just, if it's an end user, then our reps are dealing with it. So.
Okay.
Just a quick question on warranty. What's the warranty?
It's a year warranty for it.
Okay.
Hey, John, this is Pete again. I don't know if I missed it, but can these be used for Swiss machines in oil, or is it just for water-soluble coolants?
Excuse me. Yeah, another great question. Yes, they can be. Most of the time you can get, you can use the standard unit. There are situations where somebody's using a really viscous, oil, that we would go to a larger size motor and pump.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty rare, to be honest with you. We don't do that very often. There might be one machine, maybe two machines a year that will go from the standard 2 kW to 3 kW for an oil application. So if you do have oil, let me know that. That's a question I'll ask anyways, whether it's water-based or oil.
Mhm.
So if you do have an oil application, let me know, and we'll find out, what type of oil it is, and take it from there. But then
So
another good question.
John, is there a rule of thumb on the viscosity level?
There's not an exact rule of thumb, because to be honest with you, we could sell into those oil applications the standard 2 kW and it's going to work fine. It's just that it's not going to pump as quickly. So it's really there's not an exact rule of thumb. It's just that it gets to a certain point where the viscosity, we'll let the customer know it's not going to pump as quickly. And if they decide they want to go with a larger kW, then we do that. So it's not, there's not an exact number that we would go to, kind of on an individual basis. Anything else, guys?
Appreciate it.
Great job, John.
Sounds like we're good.
Yeah, thanks everybody. That was great. You guys asked a bunch of really good questions. So looking forward to working with everybody. Looking forward to talking with you guys. Feel free to, reach out to me, and as far as questions or anything else that you have going on, I'd be more than happy to, to work with anything that you guys need to, as far as questions or anything at all.
So, and I'll just say that Michael will get back to everybody. We'll talk with Ezra and whatnot about, what we'll have available and all this sort of timing on all this sort of thing, whether we're gonna have a demo and things like that. So stay tuned and listen. Michael will get back to everybody on that.
Sounds good.
All right, excellent.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Thank you,
John.
John.
Yeah, thanks guys. It was great to meet everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you.
weekend.
Keith, thank you for asking my question.